Welcome to the channel Tribe. In this session on Fireside Chat, we are having Dhairya Gangwani discussing on LinkedIn profile, personal portfolio, and resume writing.
So let's dive immediately. We're doing this 30 minutes live. So immediately let's go where the horse's mouth is. Most people, Dhairya, ask this question. What exactly should I put on my resume and what should I leave out? That's one of the most fundamental questions which we hear from people because they believe they've done quite a lot of work, which they might have done also. Like people who are seasoned professionals of 10, 12, 13, 14 years. They've done quite a lot of work in their career already. So what's the common dichotomy in their head is what should they put in their resume and what should they leave out? So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's a very relevant question because of the fact that you only have a limited number of pages, so to say, or a limited space to be able to make a mark in the eyes of the recruiter or the applicant tracking system when your resume is being sent out. And it's very important that you're able to put the right things because anything that's not needed is only wastage of space for you because there is a limitation in terms of space, like I said. I always say this, that a difference between a resume and a good resume is the person who is able to highlight the right things and discard the ones that are not needed. For example, I'll take an instance. When I did 25 internships myself, I could have very well put all of them and created a 7 or 8 page long resume. And it would have come very naturally, right? However, I know for a fact that that's not possible. Nobody is going to read an 8 page resume. You have to be able to make that choice and filter out that out of those 25, 30 things that you do, not just internships, which are the ones you think which will be the most beneficial to stand out from the crowd in terms of that job that you're applying to and to show those skills, right? So when I was, let's say, for example, applying to a marketing-oriented job, I would make sure that the marketing-oriented internship certifications that I did or anything more relevant was put up and was showcased or highlighted over and above other things that I did. Let's say human resource internship or an internship in content writing, I wouldn't put it on the top or I would let go of that because I wanted to make sure that my resume is more aligned to the job I'm applying to. Also, when you put up an explanation of the kind of job role that you've had at a particular firm, what you've done in an internship, see, there are many things you can put, but putting points like, I was responsible for, let's say, setting up meetings or setting up a calendar or writing memos does not make any sense because that is something very generic. It's not going to add value to a recruiter. A recruiter is going to hire you based on the impact you create in your role. So if you're able to rather replace those generic points with impactful points, which show your contribution to the firm, which show how you've created an impact in the organization or how you've helped the client, which has some quantifiable data point, those are the points you should have. And that's where the choice between what needs to be put and what needs to be discarded comes in. If I have to answer it in one line, anything that you feel is something that can be found on any other resume of a person working in the same field as yours should not be there on your resume because then it's adding no value. If you're just telling me you're a business development executive and you're responsible for lead generation, it's not a big deal because every other business development executive does that.
That's true.
Right? But the moment you tell me that as a business development executive for the firm you're working at, you were able to, let's say, generate leads worth 50,000 rupees, which contributed to 10% of the revenue of the company, the game changes. The way it's taken by the recruiter changes. So if you have such points, then it makes sense adding them. The rest can be discarded and, let gone off. Yeah,
that's a very fair point because what people tend up actually putting on the resume/LinkedIn profiles is what they do, which is what they don't do, which is what the job role expects them to do precisely. What I'm saying,
right? They tend to put the roles and responsibilities over the impact created.
And that's a pretty fair point. And you put a point there just now that you have to put this in a very quantifiable format. Now, quantification to me, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
A lot of people cannot quantify what they have been doing. Like, for example, in business development, in marketing or in sales, we can still quantify that. Okay, this led to this much of sales, this led to this much of sales. But in a lot of tech fields, like a developer might not be able to quantify. He cannot write, I wrote tens of lines of code, which is vanity metric in this case. So what is your suggestion to people to how to approach quantification? How do they measure the impact of their work?
Correct. Firstly, I do understand different people have different kinds of natures of jobs, which cannot necessarily help them to be able to quantify most things. Even my job personally, I literally can't quantify every tangent or point of what I do. However, it's all about, again, the way you articulate things. Even as someone who's into testing or you're a developer, at the end you are writing some lines of code, you are debugging something, or you're creating a product out of it, developing something. Because of which, directly or indirectly, you should be able to get an understanding that because of this piece of work or my code, how have I been able to, let's say, reduce a particular timeline for them? Have I been able to increase some amount of efficiency for the entire team? Have I contributed to the revenue indirectly, if not directly? And at times you might not get a direct answer. That's when I would say your interpersonal skills come in. Because once you work on something, even in a corporate job, I think it's only correct for you, after you've worked on something, let's say a project or a particular piece that's given to you, please have a conversation with your manager or someone higher in the hierarchy and try and understand what impact is your work creating on the firm. I think a lot of people don't do that. It's very important to do that so that you get that quantifiable metrics, so that you know that how have you contributed to the larger picture, because you will feel lost ultimately. There's so many people working in a MNC. And I think that's when you get those kind of insights. If you don't get the exact answer, you'll get an approximate range. And it's not wrong to use a range. If you're even able to tell them that because of this, let's say you were able to optimize the code between, approximately to 60 to 70%, it works because at least you're quantifying it rather than just saying you wrote 10 lines of code, like you said, right? So it's all about that. And like I said, it is approximation. Nobody is asking you to give exact figures. Plus minus 5% over and above is okay. But just be able to kind of put a number to it, because that just builds more trust.
Correct. That's true. And just to interrupt you, Rahul, somebody asked, I think Rahul asked, will we take audience questions? Yes, Rahul, we will take audience questions. There is an audience, there is a question section in the live. If people can put it there, it will be easier for me to see what questions are being asked. Otherwise, they will get scrolled in the comments and it will be missed. But however, I'm trying to make a note of them also. So, which now I'll take it to Rahul's question itself, because Rahul asked it first. He said, what is your view on a PDF resume versus a what's the website resume? And before you answer, I have one more question. Will there be a discussion on LinkedIn profile? Yes, Bharat, there will be a discussion on LinkedIn profile also post this question. Yeah. So the question here in the box, Dhairya, is what's your view on PDF resumes versus website resumes?
I didn't get the first word. Website
PDF.
resume, I understood.
PDF.
Yeah. Okay. So firstly, they are not two different categories of resumes. It's just that I think you're referring to, let's say, a normal paper resume in a PDF or Word format versus a portfolio, is what I kind of understand.
Portfolio slash profile. Profile,
yeah, I got it. So I think the answer is pretty simple. If you're applying to a very, very creative role, or a role which requires more visual attention to the kind of work you can bring, you can do and bring, your skills that you can bring to the table, it's always better to have a portfolio. For example, if you're a photographer, you're a content creator, you're a video editor, graphic designer, content writing, all of these fields by default will require you to be showing your creative skills, which means if you can show some testimony of your work via the means of a portfolio or a sample or a profile, or let's say Behance or somewhere else, that will any day be preferred, because they can actually see your work and can, judge for themselves if we want someone to be able to, someone for this role. As opposed to a normal typical MNC job that you're applying to, let's say as a software engineer, as a quality assurance analyst, someone working as a management consultant, etc. Here in these roles, a normal PDF resume would 100% work, because they're just looking for some measurable technical and managerial skills. They don't necessarily need to see your work as such. However, having said that, if your resume, your PDF resume, if you're in a technical field, can have your GitHub repository link, can have the links to your coding profiles where, you've been, let's say, taking part in competitions, or it's got a link to your own website, it's always great. Or, a link to your LinkedIn profile, which has more information about yourself. So I would say it totally depends on the kind of role you're applying to. MNCs are generally not open to portfolios and they don't ask for it.
Correct. And adding to what you said, for example, if your work, let's say, does not give you a portfolio organically, what you can do is it in the form of case studies, let's say. that what is the case study what is the work which you did, and then you can put it in the form of a case study, do a write-up, and then people will still reflect, okay, so was relevant, this was how it was solved. Yeah, fair. Now coming to LinkedIn profiles, we'll go back to resumes as and when people ask more questions. So one of the key part in the LinkedIn profile is the summary. Okay. Now summary is like an answer sheet in a board exam, right? I can write lengthy answers on it, and I can just write. I've seen people writing just 3 words. Okay, and this on this also.
Yeah.
So what's your take on making LinkedIn profile summaries more engaging? And if there could be substantial tips on what people should follow, what 5 or 6 short steps people should follow in writing their LinkedIn summaries, because people, before they go down to their work experiences, they're going to read your LinkedIn summaries there. So what are your tips there? What are your tips there?
Yeah, so your LinkedIn summary is called the About section, technically, on your LinkedIn profile. The About section on LinkedIn, like you said, is just a way of letting people know more about you in a summarized manner. I think one main thing you have to keep in mind is don't look at it as a space where you have to dump information about yourself. Rather, try and narrate a story. I think storytelling is very, very, very important there. If you want to keep the users engaged, you want people who are coming and viewing your profile to actually go right there till the bottom of your profile, check out your skills, your experience, everything, and let's say ultimately reach out to you also. Then it's very important that you narrate a story in the About section. So don't keep it monotonous. Don't keep it like a one-way communication. Narrate it like a story. Second thing is try and not keep it very crowded with respect to a lot of sentences. So don't have paragraphs of text or a lot of information bombarded at once. No one's going to read it. We don't have those kind of attention spans or that kind of capacity. Not, I would say, at least majority of the people won't. Instead, if you really want to give out a lot of information, there's no bar on the length. You can have a long summary, but make sure you break it up into bullet points, right? Split it into different points so that it's easier for the users to read, right? Anyone landing on your profile should be able to skim through your points very quickly and get an idea of, okay, this is what you do. This is what, the background that you've come from, what you currently do, and what you can help them with. So that's something you should really keep in mind, and try and keep it optimized with respect to the keywords. Keywords are extremely essential even on LinkedIn. Very important to have the right keywords that you want to be searched for or you want to show up on people's feed for, and try to use them in your About section or in your summary, as you want to call it, on LinkedIn. So those are 3 things you should really keep in mind, and always have a call to action in your About section, which is redirect your users to something. It shouldn't be like you fill them up with this information, you take them on this journey through your story, and then they have no action to take. Drop in an email, a website or something that they can go to check out, so that they know that after knowing so much about you, there is a next step. Or let's say follow me on LinkedIn for XYZ content, or DM me if you have any queries related to ABCD. Having a CT is very important so that your audience is redirected to something.
Sure, that's a very valid point, and I think storytelling is a very, very valid point, which a lot of us forget, and which brings to my question, because I keep it more interactive from the audience, because this is a newer format. This is not a elocution per se. So Sharon just asked this question. If you can, from your experience, give us an example of how a tester should narrate a story in his or her LinkedIn profile summary section. So
okay,
from a tester perspective,
I haven't ever thought about this, but okay. See, essentially, I more than just, from a tester's, also one more thing. It's good that you asked this question. Your About section doesn't have to be all about what you do at your job. Please understand that as well. It's not just restricted to what you do at your job. One paragraph or one good portion or chunk of your About section should be about your current role or what you do professionally. First point. Second thing is, storytelling always begins from the starting. Or otherwise, you're going backwards, you're following something very different, right? So you can do the reverse engineering thing also. You always start from a point wherein you take people on a journey of understanding what you were or what you are doing and what you're doing currently. That's how it begins. So giving a basic, understanding to your audience about your academic background, what you've done in terms of your qualifications is a good point to start with. And then you should transition to how your interest towards testing first built. What was it that got you inclined or attracted towards this field? Everyone has got a point which gets them intrigued towards a field. For me, I know exactly when I got really passionate about consulting. I know that point in my life. I think you should talk about that as a part of your story, because that's when you decided, I want to take this up professionally and do it as a full-time job. Then you slowly move towards, now you're in that job. You've been doing it for XYZ number of years. You need to tell them a little bit about what kind of challenges you've faced throughout this journey as a tester. What kind of major, let's say, achievements have you had as a tester? What kind of results have you been able to bring for your organizations as a software tester in the past few years, right? Or what has really been very rejoicing as a tester for you? And then you can tell them a bit about the technologies, different technologies, if there are any additional supporting technologies you work on, other things you're passionate about, and then kind of summarize it and conclude it with letting them know that what you are aiming to do going forward as a tester, over and above what you've already done, right? What are you looking forward to in the future? Or what kind of a space are you looking to work in the future? And obviously leave your audience with the CTA towards anything else that you want them to connect with you on. It could be related to mentoring, it could be related to whatever, with your email address, etc. That way it will be a good, decent story, which will be related to your testing journey. Don't keep it very technical in terms of jargons, because a lot of people won't understand it. But yes, put the important keywords wherever necessary.
That's true. That's a fair point. Yeah, because a lot of times what happens is tech people or people who work on a very regulated industry, they end up putting a lot of jargons in their stories, and which becomes a deterrent for a layman to probably understand it. Fair point. Yeah. Okay. Then Vaibhav asked this question, which is again a very vital question for people who are experienced. How does an experienced person condense his experience into one page? Are they still that impactful? Will experienced person's one-page resume be as impactful, and how does he condense his years of experience into a single page?
No, so I am personally not of the opinion that you should do it. I have always said this. I mean, I've helped people with even 20-25 years of experience build a resume. And one thing I can tell you is, firstly, there is no hard and fast rule on a number. Having said that, it doesn't mean you have a 10-page resume. A one-page resume is a golden page limit for a fresher, for someone with no experience. That's what is the best practice. Doesn't mean even if a fresher has a 2-page resume, you're getting rejected. That myth I want to bust here. Please, not at all. If you have great skills, you articulate it well, and there is, no nonsense, I would say, in general in your resume. Even a 2-page resume people will read. But like I said, if you have, let's say, 5+ years of experience, I think it becomes very difficult to condense it in one page. And anywhere between 5+ years of experience, I think you can go up to 2 pages, but I'll recommend don't go beyond 2. Now, how do you condense it in 2 pages? If you, let's say, have 10-12 years of experience, again, the pivotal points, the journey. There are many things. Now, assuming you have 10+ years of experience, you are probably at a managerial level or above in the firm, and you've been able to, let's say, lead a lot of projects, and you probably have a team that works with you, right? Assuming, mostly. Now, as a person with 10+ years of experience in any industry, technical, non-technical, whatever it is, you have to understand that, again, it is going to be more about how you have enabled your team to be able to achieve a certain target over and above what you have done individually, which should be highlighted more. Yeah. Because you are going to be applying to mid-level management or upper management roles or above only now, senior roles, where the ability to be able to get work done from people and effectively also do your work is very important. And moreover, what you can get done from a team is more important. Highlight those kind of points. If you've been able to bring in a big client, let's say a multi-billion-dollar client to the firm, which has contributed to the revenue, those kind of points should be highlighted over and above, let's say, just, talking about, let's say, building a team and training them, because that's anyways your responsibility of you as a manager to train them or groom them. So I think, again, it's a very conscious and a very logical choice between points which are important, which will actually be able to elevate your career to the next step, and points which are just there, which is anyways a day-to-day responsibility of yours. At the end of the day, it boils down to that. And I would say always concentrate more on your most recent role. When people have 10+ years of experience, I'm assuming at least 4 to 5 company changes would be there on an average, right? Unless there are exceptional cases. Doesn't mean you will go into and you will write down 7 to 8 points for every company you've been a part of. Don't do that. Your most recent role should have maximum description in terms of what you do there, because that's what the recruiter would be really looking forward to. What have you done most recently? So try to elaborate on that, and maybe one more role previous to that. So your top 3 roles. Beyond that, you don't have to really explain everything, I would say. If you have 10 plus years of experience, that's how you condense it.
Got it. Okay, so people who are joining in now, I'll just let you know that we are doing this Instagram live with Dhairya, who is a career coach. And we are doing this on the theme of LinkedIn profiles, resume, and portfolio. So if you have any questions, please hit up. Please put it in the questions section. Okay. So one more question which just came was now. Today there's a lot of janta. There's a lot of people hiring janta who are on Twitter also, especially for professions like, let's say, a lot of professions for dev, for tech. Also, there are people who are hiring from Twitter. Yeah. So now Twitter is again a very space constrained social media platform. So how do we do a best job in Twitter also, which helps more from a recruitment perspective, in your opinion?
So you are asking me like, how do you kind of land a job using Twitter?
No, I mean, what LinkedIn and Twitter, out of these, which is more helpful from a recruitment perspective, in your understanding?
So see, in my understanding, firstly, I'm not very active on Twitter, but having said that, it's not like, my Twitter account is dead. I do know what works there, etc. But if you're asking from a recruitment perspective, by and large, irrespective of, what field do you want to land a job in, any day, hands down, LinkedIn is a more sought after platform to go to, because of the fact that, you have a proper job section on LinkedIn, which is there where people are hiring, where you can look out. I think 95% of the recruiters are on LinkedIn. That's what the latest stats are. I'm not saying that recruiters are not there on Twitter or you can't get hired on Twitter. But any day, if you compare the numbers, your chances of getting hired on LinkedIn are more, because it's been there in this space. It's a professional networking platform. Most of the recruiters, most of the professionals working in companies are there here, and they really observe profiles, and they're always headhunting for, good talent. That's true, and there are a lot of job openings which are visibly visible to the audience. On Twitter, probably a lot of hidden jobs, in the sense, depending on how you network with people, then let's say you get on an offline chat with them, and maybe you're able to discover that's possible. But out in the open, visible and access-worthy jobs are there on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn more, yeah. That's a very fair point. That the jobs on LinkedIn are more accessible as compared to Twitter. Twitter also they're there, yeah, but they're kind of buried between tweets and millions and billions of tweets happening every day. That's a fair point. Yeah. Okay. Now again, tangible question. What, in your view, are the 3 must-dos and must-don'ts for a good resume?
Okay. So I would say, see, 3 must-dos are, number 1, please use a very neat, simple template. Don't keep it very fancy unless, again, it's exceptional. The company is expecting that it's a creative role. The second must is that try and not use different fonts all throughout your resume. A lot of people tend to use different font styles in their resume. Please stick to one, maintain that uniformity. And the third one is always customize or tailor make your resume according to the job role you're applying to, because that's the only way the applicant tracking system and the recruiter both can know that you are the right fit for this job role, and it's not just a generic resume it's scanning. I would say 3 don'ts would be, number 1, please don't, I would say try and, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Yeah.
So 3 don'ts in a resume, I would say, number 1, try to keep it free from graphics and images and pictures. Keep it text friendly. Number 2, I would say that don't try and stuff the keywords from the job description into the resume thinking that's how you will pass the ATS. That's not the right approach, and don't go with it just for the sake of it. And I would say the third don't would be to not be able to, let's say, articulate your hard skills and your soft skills well and maintain a balance between them. Today, I think whether you're a tester, you're a graphic designer, photographer, whatever it is, you have to have technical skills and management skills, because if you don't have both, you're not a 360 degree, you don't have that 360 degree utility to a firm, is what I look at it as. And recruiters at the end of the day are investing in you as a resource, and you should be able to help them both on managerial grounds and technical grounds. So I wouldn't choose any one of the two. Try to maintain that balance and show it.
Correct. That's fair point. Yeah, those are pretty fair points. That a lot of people end up actually overdoing their stuff in terms of beautifying their resumes and a lot of websites these days who end up beautifying the resumes more than they are required. Fair point. Okay. Now, Sharon again asked a fairly valid question. In relation to the team which you're talking now, how do we reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn? And because those are cold reach outs, right? Cold reach outs are the most toughest. And there is a process to cold reach out. So, what is your process? What process do you recommend for cold reach outs to recruiters?
See, so firstly, I look at cold reach out as more of a professional relationship building process than a transaction. That is first thing, the mindset needs to be clear. When a job seeker or someone looking for an internship is approaching somebody, their mindset is very fixed. Ki mujhe job chahiye, I need an internship. I will reach out to this person. If they reply, I get the job done. My job is over there. Our transaction is over there. Don't look at it that way. Because if you're going to look at it that way, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to land a job. Because the reality is, and I always say this, nobody owes you that job. It's no one's responsibility to give it to you. So first you have to understand that, first create the value and let the person know a little bit about yourself. Most people jump to a direct DM or a personalized invite on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. This is my resume. This is my cover letter. Give the job to me. I mean, if it was that easy, every other person would be getting a job. But the reality is, you're meeting the person for the first time. That too online, right? Not in person. You can't really do that. It's being very audacious, I would say. You have to first begin with appreciating their career path, their trajectory of what they have done, which requires research, not just randomly reaching out to recruiters. Please go through their profile, see what they have done for themselves. What is it that they really kind of have done in general? Is there anything common in terms of area of interest that you can find between you and themselves to strike a conversation? Build a professional relationship, not a transaction. And then after that, let's say, when you will be able to, I'm not saying that this is a form of buttering people, but you need to understand that people get thousands of DMs and recruiters get even the more. For them to be able to even take out that time and open your DM, they need to see that you have put some effort first. Take out those 5 minutes of your time, research on their profile and drop a customized, personalized invite to them and why you want to connect with them, not why you want a job. Once that street is crossed, at least the frequency or the percentage of people who will accept your personalized connect will increase. That I can tell you for sure. I've done it myself.
Yeah.
After which, again, please don't jump to just asking for a job. Don't do that. I think now is the time that you talk about yourself. You let them know how you are capable. What are your skill sets? What have you done, etc. Because in the personalized invite, you didn't take a lot of time to talk about yourself in depth, maybe a line or two, because you have only 300 characters, okay, to send to the recruiter. So now you talk about your skills, your abilities, the impact you can create, what you've done. Then let them kind of revert. And then in the third phase of the texting or the messaging phase, I would say, with the recruiter, you should actually go ahead and let them know that there is, let's say, a job opening or you're looking out for a job. This is what you think, these are the reasons why you feel you are the right fit for this job role. And also talk about what value do you bring, which probably XYZ candidates won't bring. People don't talk about that. So please talk about that. Try to quantify it if you can, again, based on your previous experiences with your previous firm. And also talk about what you will do once you're hired. People don't talk about that also. People will probably go on to say, I've got good data and visualization skill. I know how to use Tableau. I can become a data analyst. Great. Yeah. But if I hire you as a data analyst, what can you do for my firm? No one talks about that. So can you actually be so confident in your skills that you tell the recruiter, listen, if you hire me as a data analyst today, A, B, C, D is what I can do for you. These are the things where you're lacking and I can contribute to this space or this department in so and so way. That confidence is going to blow their mind. Nobody does that. I think when you set that kind of tone, then rather than you having to tell them, here is my resume attached or cover letter attached, they will rather tell you, hey, please send across your resume and I might want to see if we can kind of, interview you for so and so role. If not today, maybe in the future. That's what you want to create, right? Don't, I would say, instead of creating a mindset of being desperate, you have to create that scarcity mindset in the recruiter's mind, showing that you're a valuable asset. That's how it should be.
That's true. And I think what somebody wrote and from your process, then it's a process of investing in relationships. It's not just a one-off process that when you need a job, then you're entering to the job market and then you're trying to do every other thing.
You have to
build a
build it
relationship.
over time, I would say.
Build it over
It's
time,
a
and yeah.
process. Yeah.
So yeah, like somebody told, I think Rahul wrote it's a 90 days plan. Yes, to me it's a forever plan to build relationships, and yeah, and then who knows what you